I'll give the mic over.
Thank you. I'll just put this here. Good morning, everybody. It is good to be here. For anybody who does not know me, my name is Kyla Plett. Many of you know me very well. Yes, I work and live out of Thompson, Manitoba. Obviously Manitoba, I guess. But and as a full-time missionary, I've been there for 10 years in January. So it'll be a little while. My goal is to grow disciples that in turn grow more disciples. Disciples of Christ, not just random disciples. Yes. And the way I do that is through a few different things. There are 3 different Anchored Warriors youth groups that happen throughout the week. I am involved with 2 of them. On Thursday night, every other week is girls at my house, and every other week is a big group of girls and guys, sometimes outside, sometimes in a church. Then I go to a community about 2 hours away called Split Lake every Friday. There have been some changes on the days of the week since last time I was here. And then, I do that every week. I do a lot of life-on-life discipleship and hanging out with people, building relationships. And then in the summertime, I work at Midway Bible Camp. I'm the assistant director there, and I also do the SALT training program that stands for Serving and Leadership Training, for the younger youth that would like to work at camp and would like to know more about God and help them get to know God and help them to learn how to serve. So yes, that is what my job encompasses, and I'll tell you much more about it, don't worry. And yes, Evan already read a passage about Mary and Martha. And I like this picture. You see Martha looking around the corner. I can just almost feel her resentfulness. And maybe her jealousy in that Mary is able to just sit, is able to just be with Jesus. Think of, and when she finally gets so fed up with it that she goes to Jesus, and it's like, can't you see she's not doing what she's supposed to? Jesus is so gentle with her. He's like, Martha, Martha, you are worried about so many things. But she has chosen what is more important. And this is kind of where I'm at in some ways. I had a really hard time preparing this morning. While ministry and God working in people's lives is really exciting, I have been really struggling. The weight of caring for others has gotten just so heavy. And it's worth it. It's worth it to love people. But it is hard. I wouldn't yet consider myself to be burnt out, but I'm heading in that direction and getting close. So, I'll talk more about that yet too. And I have been needing to take precautions so that will not happen. So yes, the next few pictures, I don't have pictures of getting burnt out, but some things that God has been doing, even in the midst of feeling exhausted and weary, has been providing beautiful things in nature. So the northern lights this week were just glorious. I've never seen the reds like that. And just the way God has allowed times for me to spend with him and see his beauty and see he cares. He's still there. He still loves us. So yes, in preparing too, I realized it was so hard because I want to come here. I want to be this enthusiastic, positive person that just comes and just is a big smile on my face. And then I wasn't feeling it. And it's really hard to do that when you aren't feeling that. So rather than just come up here and pretend, I'm going to be be real as to where I'm at. There have been many times in the last while I have had to cry out to God, I don't have anything left. Please help me. And it's like he just assures me, let me be your strength. He is our strength when we have nothing. And I am so grateful for that. Another blessing too has been kayaking in the last while. Actually, I only didn't go for a long time, and then this last week I went twice. And God blessed me with beautiful otters that were playing in front of me. And then I got to go with a coworker, and we got to just explore and play, and that was fun. Yeah. One thing too, I know my dad asked for prayer for me this last Sunday. I was at a workshop for counseling those that have been through sexual abuse this last weekend, and that was really, really hard too. I was already feeling weary before that, but yeah, there's a lot that has been confided with me over the years. And as I was there, every single one of those stories that I've heard was just running through my mind. And my heart hurts for those kids that should have been protected and are not. It hurts. Yeah, and even to some families, or many places I've heard, like, families did not take care of it in order to keep the peace in the family. So then kids are shown they're not as important as those who are doing the hurting. And that is hard. And I would guess that probably 80 to 90% of the youth that we work with have experienced abuse to some degree. And then to those that are doing it are normally, they have been abused in their life as well. It's not like they're just one day, oh, I'm going to be mean and do this. They're also hurting, and there's just so much hurt. And yeah. And I'm glad that I can mourn with God about that He has grown my love enough to be able to mourn. But yeah, one of the key things at this workshop that I've needed to apply this last week too is that if you numb one emotion, you're numbing all of them. And so you can't just numb your anger or be like, no, I'm not going to feel angry, and then go on to normal life and feel everything else. No, then you're actually not going to feel happiness the same way, or sadness. Or if you numb your sadness, then you're so it's important to actually go through the emotions and to feel them. So maybe that's a bit where I am today too. And to add on to the difficulty, some of my closest friends finally, in the last number of years, I've been able to share, I finally have friends in Thompson that are really close and we can do stuff with. And they've moved away. So that's another thing where I'm so grateful that God has provided friends in the meantime. So now it's not like I don't have any friends. I do have friends, and I have some people where it is closer relationships. But yeah. So I've been learning to do as Martha, or as Jesus told Martha to do, as Mary did when just sitting at Jesus' feet. Too often I can get grouchy and resentful like Martha. I can be like, I'm doing all this for what? I need to abide in Christ. And yeah, so as I share what He has been doing, it's not anything about what I have been doing, because I've had nothing to do, or I've not been able to give anything. It's only what He has given strength to. So, yeah. Yes, on to the next passage. John 15. I'll start reading in verse 1. I am the true grapevine, and my Father is the gardener. He cuts off every branch of mine that doesn't produce fruit, and He prunes the branches that do bear fruit, so they will produce even more. You have already been pruned and purified by the message I have given you. Remain in me, and I will remain in you. For a branch cannot produce fruit if it is severed from the vine. And you cannot remain fruitful unless you remain in me. Yes, I am the vine, you are the branches. Those who remain in me, and I in them, will produce much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing. Anyone who does not remain in me is thrown away like a useless branch and withers. Such branches are gathered into a pile to be burned. But if you remain in me and my words remain in you, you may ask for anything you want, and it will be granted. When you produce much fruit, you are my true disciples. This brings great glory to my Father. After camp this last summer, we have a conference with all the other InterAct missionaries. That's the organization I work with, if I didn't say that. And this year it was in Alberta, and the speaker spoke through the John 14 to 16. And one thing that really stood out to me there too is that if you see bad fruit in your life, if you see fruit that does not feel fitting to a vine that is in Christ, it doesn't mean that you need to try harder or work more or try to be really, really good. It means you need to abide in Christ more. If I struggle with sin, it doesn't mean I should just go out and do more ministry. It means I should spend more time sitting at the feet of my Father. A branch cannot produce fruit if it is severed from the vine. And so what it looks like to abide, what it looks like to remain in Christ, I'm so grateful for the times I do get to spend with Him each day. And even in preparing for this, when I felt empty and I didn't have anything, as I would be journaling and praying, then suddenly it's like, oh, that's how that fits together. So I'd write it down in another thing and then go back to talking to God, and then suddenly a different thing would fit together. And he was providing. But yeah, and this good fruit, it's easy to look at it, especially in a mission context, and think, oh, fruit, that's lots of people following Jesus. That's lots of people converted to Christ. Whereas most of the time when the Bible talks about fruit, it's talking about the fruit of the Spirit, what God is growing in our life. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, gentleness, faithfulness, goodness, and self-control. If I missed one, I maybe did, but that godly character, and as we are connected to him and grow that godly character, we can also encourage others to do the same. And the goal in ministry in all of this is to encourage others, to come alongside, to be connected to the vine, to be connected to life, and to grow as well. So yes, there are these, I'll share some ways that God has been doing that in the last while. This last summer at camp, doing the salt training program, it was a really good group. That was, the leaders and the youth that were in it. And I was really encouraged by how all the youth were just ready and eager to participate. It was awesome. A number of them went on to work at camp for the rest of the summer as well. And to see, like, many years it's been a struggle knowing, like, some kids, they want to be there, but it's like, I don't know if I want them leading children. That can be a problem. And this year they were just all really, really good and really, really solid. All the arrows are pointing to the leaders. And it was neat, a number of the co-leaders went through the training program 2 years ago. And then a few of them were the ones where I was like, I don't know how this is going to work. Because they would talk through the entire sessions, and it was like, I don't know if they're learning anything here. And then, especially in this group, one of them rededicated his life to Christ. The other one became a believer for the first time. And it's been neat to see the way that they have been growing. And now they could go on to train others and help others serve God. God can do that. That's really small. But one of the highlights was one session when I asked them to share things that they wish they had known before they started working in a cabin or before they started working at camp, and advice for the new staff. And so this list is what we covered in probably about an hour of all the things that they could think of that would be good to know. Things to not do, things to do. And yeah, it was really cool. Really cool to see their growth and see the way they were excited to pass that on. And we've really took note of that this last summer as well. How many of our staff have not grown up in a family where they receive, like, a lot of close care. Many of them have fairly neglectful parents. Not all of them, but many of them. And we've realized how much working at camp is almost training how to parent. Where they haven't learned that spending time together with kids actually helps there to be less fighting and helps kids to feel loved and helps, like, so many things. Things just work so much better if people, like, there's older people spending time with them. And it can get so frustrated sometimes when there's staff that haven't learned that, being like, where are your campers? And they're like, I don't know. Like, but they haven't learned in their own life that how beneficial that is. And so now we get a chance to teach them that. And then hopefully when they do get older and have kids, that will help to change some of the ways that things have been done. One young man who was a part of the SALT program this year, he was asking a coworker, like, how did this person I'm counseling with learn this? Because he was like, wow, he knows so much. And that counselor learned it from the people he counseled with originally. So getting to pass on these things from one young person to another young person and to grow throughout that. So that's neat to watch and neat to see them connecting the dots in their heads too and being like, I want to, when I have a family, I want to lead it well. I want to, have a godly family. So this summer too, I I have not been in the cabin for a junior week in at least 8 years. So I've been for teen camp a few times. And I help with all the kids. So like if there's kids not listening, then they come to me and I can try to figure out what to do. But this summer, one of our staff was sick and had to leave last minute. And I got to join a cabin. And it was neat how God prepared for that. Earlier that day already, I had been just hanging out with him and spending time. And then it turned out that evening, oh, I guess I'm in here for the week. And the co-counselor was really, really good. She did a good job too. But it's a whole different level of energy being in a cabin with the young kids. These are 2 girls that were in my cabin. And it's been neat to see how God has worked through me since the last time that I did counsel a cabin. I've grown a lot in 8 years, which is really good to see. To see that, like, despite I was absolutely exhausted and grouchy many times and overstimulated and stressed out, how God provided the, the ability to see even when I wasn't acting loving, or when, like, my resting face is already kind of grouchy, like I'll look like that, and then to see where I was stressed out and really looking angry, be like, no, I love these kids. I want them to see even from my face that I love them, and to be able to relax my eyebrows and relax. So, like, those are things I would have never thought of a while ago. And how even, yes, when one girl was refusing to get up in the morning, and it's like, what do? We have to go to breakfast. And some points, I probably would have been a lot more like, okay, we're going to jump, pour water, or do whatever we need to do. And here I was like, yes, she still didn't receive it very well, but I was able to explain, like, yes, we need to go to breakfast. I hate pouring water on people. I do not want to do this. I'm not doing this because I just like dumping water and making people mad. That's not what I'm doing. But I could explain that, like, hey, by staying in bed, you are choosing that you want water on your head, whether you feel like it or not. And so I did have to dump some water, and she was furious at me. But at least I could explain the process and give her a warning, and so she could act like, no, this is because we need to do stuff, but I actually care about you more than I care about being on time. And there it was really good too, that we had I had the co-counselor, and she worked so well with that girl, whereas I worked better with some of the other girls. So it was a good getting to work as a team together. Now you can play that other video, Sanya. So, yeah, it'll soon be up there, keeping you guys updated on the fact that our camp is needing to move for the last number of years. It has been 10 years of waiting and hopes being deferred again and again. Yes. Now, this is the site that we will be moving to. It'll just be in the background as I talk. This is drone footage of what we are doing. That driveway has all been cleared by the hands of my coworkers. And so this is where we get to move. And it is exciting. It is a beautiful place. I remember, it probably took 7 years since there was first a land application till we had a place. We were finally going to move. It was perfect. We have to be out of the place where we currently are. And wow, God provided it. And then we were about to put in the driveway there. And then we were told that the government had made a mistake and we could not have that place after all. And because they had made a mistake, though, they were very eager to make another place work. And so this place is way better. This is just glorious. There's big trees. There's beautiful lake. There's a beautiful sandy beach. And so, yes, this last summer was our final summer at Moke Lake, where we currently are. And we are hoping to build a lot this winter to be ready to move in we have to be moved out of the last place by the end of this month. But hoping to have enough cabins and a kitchen and everything in order to be here this next summer. So the next step, we got all the building permits we needed. We want to get the foundations in before the ground freezes. So I think some coworkers are working on that this next week and the coming weeks. And it's been amazing how God has provided even as we've been fundraising. The total project is $1.1 million that we need to raise, and we only have $400,000 to go. So that is a blessing. Continue to pray for that. My brain just stopped. Yes, we will soon have used up everything that we do have as we pour the foundations and do everything else. But yes, we have lots of use for volunteers too. If anybody wants to ever come up to the north and work on things, we have places for you to be. Yes. Here you can see there's no sandy beaches in the north, or almost always it's muddy, but here there's a beautiful sandy beach. And it is a shallow entry, and we found a good spot. It's glorious. I'm excited to be there, even though it's hard to believe where we once were. Then you can stop it if you want, Senya. And we'll move on to the next one. Despite many of the challenges, there are things that I am excited about too. One of the joys in the last few weeks is that I got to have some of the youth help me as I led music in church. One girl, she's just barely been learning keyboard, so she got to play keyboard. And one boy, I had already picked her up. I was going to practice with her well ahead of time so that she'd be ready. And then we're like, we should get somebody to play bass. Who should play bass? So she suggested one name. And I was like, okay. And we messaged him, hey, want to learn bass? And he's like, okay. So we picked him up. And he picked it up so fast. I think I taught him for maybe 10 minutes and he was already following along. And yeah, that was Wednesday night. We had another practice on Saturday, and then Sunday morning he was good to go. So that was really fun. It was fun to just jam with them and play together. And yeah, actually our drummer too is a 12 or 13-year-old that also did the training this summer. He's done a lot more drumming than they had done keyboard or bass. But yeah, it was fun. It was a good group. And so that is fun. It's neat. And especially those two that helped me, it's neat to see the ways that they have been growing in their faith. This boy, he's been doing a lot of the volunteering along at the camp. He's been doing like lots of chopping wood, lots of building stuff and getting to go along with my coworkers. And she is going to be teaching the lesson at the Thompson Anchored Warriors group this next Thursday while I'm away. And neat to see their growth. And yeah, he comes from a family where his cousin first brought him to the Anchored Warriors group. That cousin was following God then and is not now. But now, yeah, his cousin brought him there and he's still, at first he was so quiet. I think in the first 2 years he came, I maybe heard him say 5 words. So like there was just silence. And it's like, I don't know if he's catching on to anything. I don't know if he's interested in anything, but he kept coming. And this last winter, he did a lot, with some of my coworkers and stuff. And he's had some really difficult times too. He had, I think, a few months this last winter where he was basically stuck at home 24/7 because there was nobody to babysit his brother. And he felt, my brother needs to be taken care of, so he was there watching him. And the only food he had to eat was stuff that family members had stolen. And that was hard for him too, because he's like, this is not right to eat stolen food, but also I don't want to starve. And he didn't have any phone or internet, anything to do. So he was wrestling through that. And in the middle of that difficulty too, he turned to Christ and he read the Bible. And it is amazing how much, he's 15, how much he knows in the Bible. Like, we would be talking about stuff this summer and I'd mention a random verse and he's like, oh, that's found here. And it's like, I didn't know where it was found, but he did. And neat to see how even in that, like, he's turning to Christ and he just actively, he really wants to serve Christ. And that's awesome. And yeah, this girl that was playing keyboard, they're actually both on that hill there. You can't really see who they are there, but yeah. She comes from a family too where there's some cousins that are believers, and a lot of her siblings would say they love God, but they have not made him the Lord of their life. There's a lot of difficulties. And the last 4 years she was living in Brandon, and there too there was very little support for her. In her household there's not a lot of encouragement for doing what is right. And she would try to connect with a youth group, but normally every night those youth groups happened, she had to babysit. So she was there for 4 years with very little fellowship, and she still is following God. And she kept running after him and seeking him. And that's really encouraging to see, even the temptations that surrounded her, how she is still, learning to do what is right. And she just moved back to Thompson, and it's awesome to have her around again. She's really solid. And continue to pray for her too, that she will remain in Christ. Another blessing, there's one young lady that did the SALT program at camp. One of the first years I was in Thompson. I think that she's in that picture. This picture was taken in 2015. So that's a while ago. And she kind of turned away from Christ, started doing her own thing for a little while. And now she just really wants to serve God again. And she's turned away from stuff, and she came to church with me last Sunday. And it was interesting. When I first met her, probably she came to teen camp when I was there in 2014. And I was kind of intimidated by her. Like, some teenagers are scary. I know I work with teenagers, but they're still scary. And I was, feeling intimidated and weird. And eventually I got to know her, and it's like, okay, she's not scary. But I told her that last Sunday when I brought her to church. And then she messaged me probably 2 a.m. that night. And it's like, I was actually intimidated by you too. I just really wanted to be your friend. And it's like, that's so special. And it's so neat to see how, God has worked in that too. And I'm hoping to do a lot more with her in the upcoming bit. And another thing that has had joys and ups and downs is that I've been doing a lot of hosting people in my house. I had one of the Bible college students that worked in the camp this summer stay with me for the 4 months that she was out of college. And it was good to have her around, and also having somebody else in the house is tiring too. And during this summer, there was another girl asking to come stay with me, and she was finishing up grade 12. And that was a lot of praying. I don't know, that sounds exhausting too. But I came to the point, every time I prayed about it, the thought came to mind that it would have great value in this life and in the life to come. So it's like, okay, that's worth it. I can do that then. And then a week before she was going to move in, she told me, oh, it doesn't work for me after all. And so that was almost a disappointment, but also, okay, I don't have to think about that now. And this last week, right when I was in the middle of that counseling course and feeling heavy and exhausted, there was a knock at the door too, with somebody not having anywhere to go. And so, yes, I told her she could stay with me for a month. And I think I have peace and joy with that. But it's neat to have a house, though, that people feel safe to come and knock at the door, where they know that they will be cared for and that they will be loved when they do come. In the upcoming while, I have the potential of a 3-month sabbatical. This was a policy with InterAct a long time ago that we never heard about. And it was hasn't been implemented in the last while. Till now, my boss was looking into it and finding out, people are supposed to have a sabbatical every 5 years. And I'm almost at 10 years. So that sounds like I look forward to having the energy to do what I would like to do and to do all the things where right now it sounds daunting to respond to an email. It sounds daunting to go out and visit people or interact with people, but that is what I want to do. I just don't have the energy for it. And so I look forward to having some recuperation and some filling. And yes, now I want to continue to learn what it looks like to sit at Jesus' feet when we have to get things done, make the meal like Martha, but how to do that even while sitting with God and being with him. So, I encourage you guys to, please continue to pray for me, pray for those that I work with, and for wisdom. We need wisdom every day to know who to talk to when, and when to say, no, I need to just stay home, and when to actually go when I was in the middle of staying home, but when people are more important and when I need to do stuff with them. And that I will get back to feeling like the energy and the motivation like I did at one point. That would, be a blessing. So, yes, and continue. Let's remain with Christ, remain in him, abide in him. And now, to finish off, I'll go sit down already, but I have one more video made by one of my coworkers. He wrote a song talking about being Jesus' tools. And it has a lot more videos of camp and of even the new site. So then you guys get to see a little bit of a greater picture of what has been happening. And I'd love to answer any questions during Sunday school. So, yes, thank you.
Tapped upon my shoulder on heaven's golden street. A boy told me how I tied his shoes when he was only 8. The love I showed that moment, little enough to me, but it was on that day he saw God's love and accepted it for free. He said, then I knew that Jesus was more than just a word. Your love and you says his good too, showed me his love was real as hers. Thank you for being his good too, his masterpiece fully used. I'm here today because of you. Corner, a smiling face said I was just a girl. You sang us all to sleep the first time we were away from home. Bible stories met real life and made the way seem clear. With Jesus there beside me, I had nothing left to fear. She said, then I knew that Jesus was more than just a word. Your love and you says his good too, showed me his love was real as hers. Thank you for being his good too, his masterpiece fully used. I'm here today because of you. Crowd had gathered all around. They spoke of healthy food and smiling highs and wacky Wednesday and Taco Tuesday so good. They said there was no rumbling tummies in the way when they heard God's truth. They heard the words that changed their hearts and brought them up above. They said, then I knew that Jesus was more than just a word. Your love and you says is good too, show me his love was real as hers. Thank you for being his good too, his masterpiece fully used. I'm here today because of you. Prayer and summer sacrifice, donations big and small, paved the way and fixed the pipes and built the very walls. 70 years of Jesus' love and the truth built by the Lord. Every different tool in the master's hand, accomplishing his word. They said, then I knew that Jesus was more than just a word. Your love and you says is good too, show me his love was real at hers. Thank you for being his good too, his masterpiece fully used. I'm here today because of you. As my eyes could see, with stormies on their lips, of hiking crafts, said, then they knew that Jesus was more than just a word. Your love and use as my good tool showed them my love was real as hers.